Hey, it's me, MLB. Here's chapter 70 of Chance Ball, and this one is titled Working Mum. Here is just a polite warning before we start. There is a scene in this chapter that I've had to skip quite heavily over, but as you all know, the completed book without any of the scenes being chopped out can be found on my Quirky Fanfics website. The link is free from my Patreon. Patreon is the same name as here, MLB224 Fanfics. Free to join to get to the website to read the scenes that have been taken out. If you dare. That I should add that in, if you dare. Okay, so without further ado, let's keep going on the chapter. That second lesson flew by, and before you knew it, the mothers were all walking in to collect their kids. Thankfully, all of them were still practicing throwing the balls over the net, and even Miru was getting into it. Aya, her mum shouted. Come on, we need to go. I have your toy in the car, pink, just as you asked. I've been really good and I played volleyball, so that's why you got it right, Mom? Aya asked, almost a completely different child to when she came in. Yes, now let's go. Say goodbye, the mum said before grabbing Aya's arm and marching her out the door. You waved goodbye to the somewhat sad Aya and called out that you'd see her tomorrow, which made her smile. Then Yoshi's mum walked in and he gave her a big smile and ran over to go home with her. Miru's mum arrived and then he was still so engrossed in throwing the ball so he didn't even notice her until the last minute. Mummy, he said with delight when he finally saw her and ran over for a hug. Then lastly were Rin and Harima's parents. You saw Rin look over to the door and vaguely saw movement outside of it, and then he took off at a run and you had to call him back to get his lunch bag. Then he was off to his mum, who you still hadn't seen very well. Since Harima seemed to be the most volleyball savvy of the group, you decided to set for her to see if she could hit the ball over the net, and to your surprise she was quite good at that. Harima, let's go, her mum called as she walked in. Look, Mummy, she called, getting you to set the ball up so that she could hit it over the net. Well done, the mum said with tears brimming in her eyes. While Harima was getting her lunch bag, you sidled up to the mum, who looked quite teary. Is everything okay? You asked her. Yes, sorry, we lost my husband a few weeks ago to cancer, and he was a big volleyball fan. Harima takes after him, and she's been so lost without her dad to play with her. He used to set for her just like what you did. I'm really happy she found someone. It's a great group to play with. As well, we didn't have anywhere that would take her on, the mum said gratefully. You're doing a great job. I don't think I am, you replied honestly. It's been a learning curve today, but as long as Harima is happy, then good. The mum smiled again and Harima walked over, ready to go. Bye-bye, she said to you. See you tomorrow. Bye, Harima, you said with a smile. Mr. and Mrs. Totoro had been sitting very quietly at the other end of the veranda, and you walked over to at least introduce yourself to Mrs. Totoro. Hello, you greeted her. I'm Yin. Nice to meet you. She nodded, her chest rising and falling slowly and heavily as she took deep, ragged breaths in. We had a lovely afternoon watching the kids, Mr. Totoro said to you. Rin is really something, isn't he? He is, you chuckled. When he ran to the side of your house, I was worried for a second, but he was up and running again in no time. The elderly pair chuckled. My grandson will be joining on Thursday, if that's okay. That's when he comes over here to play, Mr. Totoro said with a smile. That's fine, you replied. We'll have plenty of fun. I just know you will, he grinned, an old man grin. You were utterly and completely exhausted when you got home, and Koemi met you at the door with a bright grin on her face. Mummy! She squealed excitedly. Yes, Mummy is alive, he said in a weary voice as you walked in. You look like you've been trampled by 2-year-olds, Dabi said as you walked into the kitchen with Koemi in your arms. Please, why did I decide to do this? You asked. Today has been absolute madness. I'm glad I don't have work at the shop tonight. You work tomorrow, don't you? He asked. Yeah, expect me to arrive home in a coffin, you said in a tired voice. He chuckled. Okay, go and have a nap. I'll have food ready for you when you wake up, he said, walking over to give you a kiss on the lips while slipping one arm around your side to hug you while you held Koemi on the other side. But first, I think you need a shower, he commented. What did these kids do to you? Vomit on you? Not quite, but Rin ran into me and squished a banana into my thigh. You pointed to the stain. And Miru got upset because he thought there was a monster that was going to get him and cried on my shirt, you added. And the rest is just dust getting kicked up. Like a sports mosh pit, Dabi commented with amusement. Well, go and clean up, and I'll put the volleyball on for Koemi to watch. "Volleyball," she announced, swinging her legs happily when she recognised the word. Yu chuckled and handed her to Daddy. "I'm off," he said, as he wandered off out of the kitchen and up the stairs. The first week, juggling, teaching volleyball, and working at the corner shop was a bit of a nightmare. But the kids were really loving their lessons, and by the end of the first week, the younger group were able to receive the mini volleyballs if you dropped the ball directly onto their wrists, and the older group could receive, and if you set for them, they could hit the balls over the net. "The kids are getting really good," you commented to Dabi over dinner one night. "Even Missy K here is keeping up." "I'll take her to practice this weekend," Dabi said, "so you can rest, and then we'll be home in the afternoon." "Thank you," you said gratefully. "That would be lovely." And so that Saturday morning, Dabi packed himself and Koemi some food and other stuff, and then left to go to practice, which your little girl was most excited about, and insisted on bringing her Wowo along as well. As soon as Dabi turned up at the hall and stepped through the door with little Koemi in arms, he was swamped by the boys on the team. "Oh, hey, she has her own volleyball," one of the guys commented. "It's called a Wowo, you uncultured swine," Fueji cut in, pushing his way to the front of the group to see his favourite girl. "Anta," she greeted brightly, putting her arms out to go to him. Hey, baby girl, come back to Daddy. What is this?" Dabi asked as she eagerly held on to Fueji with one arm and her Wowo in the other. "She's chosen the better-looking guy, haven't you?" Fueji asked her rhetorically, just to tease Dabi. "Come on, let's go." And with that, he turned and made his way out of the back of the crowd and headed over to the other side to put Koemi down on the ground. She was too fascinated with the place that she didn't get spooked at all, and her eyes lit up even more when she spotted a whole cart full of Wowo. Dabi walked over to the cart and pulled a ball out, and then walked over to the court and tossed the ball high into the air a few times to get his arm in. Fueji sat down on the ground, and little Kay sat in his lap, watching her daddy eagerly. Dabi threw the ball up one last time, and then got under it, and as it came falling back down, he smacked it with all his might. "Hey!" Fueji cheered. "Bit sloppy though, Dabi. Your arm's getting a bit weaker each day." "Shut up," Dabi replied with a smirk. "Your arms are just getting stronger because you wank more than I do. My girl rides me like a pro, so I don't have to use hands." Fueji quickly covered Koemi's ears so she wouldn't hear the obscene comments made by her daddy, and he pulled an offended face. "Not in front of my baby girl," he gasped playfully. "Don't listen to that man talking like that." Dabi smirked and went back to practicing, with the two watching on. As expected, Koemi had a wonderful morning and even got a chance to play with the team, which she greatly enjoyed, and let some of the other players pick her up to toss a ball over the net. And after a big morning, her and Dabi said their goodbyes and then headed home for her nap. Poor little thing was so tuckered out that she fell asleep just before Dabi got her home, and he carefully transferred her to her bed to continue her nap there. "How did you guys go this morning?" he whispered to him as he came back down the stairs after putting her down. "Good," he replied in a soft voice. "I'm ready for some mummy-daddy time though." The twinkle in his eye made you smirk, and you reached up and wrapped your arms around his neck and planted your lips on his. While you made out slowly, he backed you into the lounge room and removed everything. Month after month ticked by, and you were getting more and more kids joining your coaching sessions, that finally the day came when you decided to give up working at the shop. "I've got so much on my plate," you said to Dabi a few nights before calling your boss. "I can't keep doing this. I'm doing 3 training sessions a day now for the whole week, and I just don't have time anymore." "Fair enough," he replied with a mouthful of food. "You do what you want to do." "Okay, thanks," you replied, feeling like a weight had been lifted from your shoulders. You rang your boss a few nights later and explained to him your predicament. He knew that you had started up a volleyball training group for little kids, and from what he had heard it was growing in popularity. "I just don't have time and energy anymore," you said sadly to him, "and this is my line of work. I went to college to do this, so I'm finally doing what I love." He nodded and sighed. "I didn't want to have to sell the shop, but looks like I'm going to have to, as I don't have the energy to maintain it either," he said. "Did you want me to help you sell the place? I can look after all the inquiries and keep you in the loop. I don't mind doing that," you said. "That would be really good of you," he replied gratefully. "If I could fetch a good price, then I can retire happily." "I'm sure you'll get a good price. The shop is well looked after, and many people come by each day," you said encouragingly. There was silence on the other end, and you felt a pang in your heart. You knew that he had hoped that you would keep the shop because he trusted you and knew you. He had told you so many times how his father had started the store up and how he had handed it on to him, and when his only son had been killed in a car accident, you'd become like a daughter to him. He had watched you go through college and had reprimanded you on your antics with Dabi in the shop, but above all, he really liked you as a person and wanted to show his appreciation for all the work that you'd done for him by giving the shop to you. After the chat with him, you were a little quiet and Dabi could tell something was wrong. "Hey, it's not like you to be so quiet," he said as he watched you start pulling things out in preparation for dinner. "Yeah," you sighed. "I just spoke to the boss about giving up work at the shop, and although he didn't say anything about it, I feel like I've let him down." "How?" Dabi asked. So you told him the story behind the shop and how it was all kind of like a family business thing, and he felt like you'd become a daughter to him. "Yeah, he'll be fine," Dabi said dismissively. "Don't be so heartless," you chided. "I've known the guy for, almost 4 years now? I worked in that shop the entirety of my college period and whole of pregnancy, and now Koemi is too, so yeah, about 4 years." And there ends chapter 70. Stay tuned for chapter 71 coming tomorrow. I'll see you then.